So here's a review of Banishers Ghosts of New Eden that I just finished. So my thoughts are crystal clear. And I can, first of all, I can say immediately that it was a good game. And I strongly recommend it for many sorts of gamers, but especially to those who like strong narratives, very difficult choices, especially for a gamer who likes to immerse themselves in a game. Some choices were very difficult for me. For example, I had to make difficult choices. But yeah, I want to review this, and I'm going to review it by giving it points from 10 different categories. From narrative and story, atmosphere, authenticity, originality, that sort of stuff. Characters, of course, audio, voiceovers, graphics, animation, game mechanics, replay value, playability, that sort of stuff. Length. And then last but not least, 10 points are, I don't know what I want to call them. Should I call them Sleeky Points? But anyway, like bonus points, what I'll just want to give to the game. Yeah, I'm going to start off with the narrative. Because narrative and story in this game was very strong. It's a game by Don't Nod. If you know the studio, they made strong narrative games before, like Life is Strange games. I think they started off with Remember Me, which is quite a lot less known game. The previous game from them I played was Vampyr, which was, well, heavily story focused, but sort of showed where the studio was going with the more action-oriented style and not just storytelling. But there was a shit ton of dialogue in the game. And this Banishers Ghosts of New Eden was very similar to Vampyr, but with less dialogue. Not a small amount in any case, but still a lot of similar aspects. And it revolves around two ghost banishing characters in the new world. I'm not going to go too deeply into the story here. And I don't want to spoil too much. But basically there are, well, I think there are many different endings, but two main paths, which are resurrecting our lost companion, which we lose in the beginning, that's a spoiler, or giving them an ascension, kinda. So every decision, everything you do revolves around those two. So whether you sacrifice people to resurrect the one you love, or whether you save people and be sort of like the nice guy all around, it plays towards the ascension. Out of 10 points, I'm going to give the narrative and story of Banishers Ghosts of New Eden a solid 9. It's not perfect. But it's very good. It's compelling. And it moves forward. So, next up, atmosphere. This is a bit more ambiguous. I think that's the word. to part to review, because there are different kinds of atmospheres in games, but I'm considering this whether it fits the theme and the story and the overall other gameplay loop and that sort of stuff. And that's very good. I can't complain. All the like building the new world, settlers kind of stuff, grim, harsh, surviving aspects, that sort of atmosphere is done very well. But maybe it was just a teeny weeny bit stale at times, but still, since I can't say what I would add to it, then I can't really complain, can I? So I'm gonna give atmosphere a solid good 8. And another difficult thing to rate is originality and authenticity of this game, because it borrows a lot from big games. Like, many things in the game remind you of God of War, the newer God of War games. Not a bad thing, I must say, because they are quite solid. Of course, action adventure with RPG elements, maybe not the most original style, but probably the best anyway. But the originality comes from the game mechanics, the choices, the storytelling, that sort of stuff. Not from the fighting or... Well, in fact, in the fighting, there's always also some original aspects, like you get to switch between two characters which are essentially the same between a ghost character and a material character. So it's kind of original. I like that. But nothing mind-blowing. Again, a solid 8. Deserved. Characters. A strong aspect of the game. I think this could divide opinions a bit. But I think the characters are very well written. They're quite diverse. And most importantly, they feel alive, if you get my meaning. So they don't just feel like they're written there. But when you're solving a haunting case, you actually, in most cases, not every time, but you understand each character's motives and what has driven them to do something, and sort of what's going on around their lives and in their head, whether they're doing the horrible things, which are aplenty in the game, by the way. Not to put it lightly, but the pretty much every horrible thing you can imagine is in the game. So bonus points for that. And most importantly, the main characters are interesting enough. There's an interesting dynamic with Antea, like the strong strong female master who's taught Red, sort of a live, playable character, to be a Banisher, and everything's revolving around their life and love. So I can't say the characters are perfect, but it's close. So I'm gonna say 9. So we're giving out good points for this. And probably we're heading to the best part of the game. It's nice to review a game where I can give praise. And that's audio and voiceovers. This sort of atmospheric music that's playing on the background. It fits. It fits to the harsh themes and difficulties the characters face. But the music is not a big part of the game. Mostly it's ambience or fighting sounds or sounds of the wild. Kind of subtle, but works very well. And what makes the audio and voiceover, especially voiceovers, is the character voices. I think there was absolutely 0 characters that had bad voice acting. And that's a big thing for me. Really. For example, I played Dragon's Dogma 2 and I can't find a single voice actor, or maybe a voice actor, but a voice in the game of Dragon's Dogma 2 that I could even compare to anyone in this game. So they're on completely different level, which is understandable. The other one is like a hardcore RPG, and this is a story-oriented character, narrative-oriented game. So this has to have better voiceovers, but still. So, full 10 points for that. Easy 10 points. Well, maybe not easy, but because of the voiceovers. Other parts, like the music and the sound effects, they are good, but not exceptional. But the voiceovers are very good. Graphically, this game deserves a good 8 points. It could be better. I could give this a 9. But it's not like the highest standard of graphical fidelity we're witnessing here. It looks good. Everything looks good. Effects look good. Animation looks good. But sometimes things are a bit slow and nothing remarkable. But the best thing about the graphics were the cutscenes, which were the game engine graphics, gameplay graphics, with a strong film grain, that sort of filter on it. And in my opinion, those look very nice. Those were really cool. Like, make those cutscenes and all of that very realistic in a way. Because it wasn't too sharp, it wasn't too bright, it was very well done. So I was thinking about giving it a 9, but I'm gonna go for an 8. So then we're heading for the hard parts. So game mechanics, stuff like traversal options, the very good choice system, upgrading gear, inventory management, that sort of stuff. That's a bit of a mixed bag for me, because traversal wasn't awesome. The gameplay map is big. You can only fast travel via campfires, which at some points are pretty far off from each other. But fortunately, Red runs with quick feet. So it's okay. Nothing great. Inventory, just standard stuff. Upgrading gear, pretty okay. Nothing spectacular. But yeah, those are quite difficult to say whether they were good or not. What I didn't like was the compass and the map, which I can't believe I played. I don't know how long I played this, 35 hours or whatever. Still, in the end, I still got lost. Time and time again. Especially the compass was utter shit. But that's a small gripe. Then I wasn't a big fan of some of the like Assassin's Creed-esque question mark and a bloat-ish stuff. I do understand that this kind of game requires something, that it should give you something why you would explore the map. But those were a bit forced, maybe a bit forced. And I don't like the fact that some of the activities or like mini boss fights were the kind that you can replay and get the loot from it again. I never did that, but I can't understand why they are there. So if you want to get better loot, better collectibles, why won't you just explore more of the map? Why would you play the same fight again and again? That's kind of weird. I don't understand that. Then the great part of the game is obviously the dialogue and the choices. Whether you sacrifice people, blame them, ascend them, or banish them. That was awesome. If I would just give points for that, it would be a 10. But since it's not, and since there are some things that I wasn't a big fan of, I'm going to give that 8 for game mechanics. Traveling works, everything works, but for example, I'm going to give you an example. There was 0 actual loading times, loading screens, but the areas were very small in some cases, and the loading time was crawling through a corridor or using an elevator, and there were a lot of those. So at some point, especially when you're just exploring, the exploring could be a bit slow when you have to climb slowly because it loads the next area at the same time, or you have to go through a crack in the mountain pretty slowly so that the game can load. I think that's better than a blank black loading screen, a lot better, but not awesome. And next up, which is kind of mixed with game mechanics, is just a playability, gameplay. So the gameplay loop was more or less, you go to a new place, running around, find people to talk to, you get haunting cases, you solve their sort of like detective work. And when you get to new areas, at sometimes there were ghosts and demon-like creatures that you have to fight. Then you loot, or of course you loot every time. Loot is life, you know that. And then you solve the case, you make the choices, and you move on. The good thing about that was that the game world actually evolved. Your choices mattered. If you let someone live, they showed up later. If you didn't, maybe their ghost showed up later to fight you, and that sort of stuff, which was very good. Fighting mechanics, heavy attacks, charged attacks, rifle play a lot like God of War in many ways. Not as snappy, not as refined, but there were many similarities. I can't say I hated any aspect of the gameplay, or even disliked. Some things that I went through in the mechanics part, like crawling through the cracks in the mountain and that sort of loading time thingy, that was pretty much the worst part of it. So not a big deal. And the combination of switching between the ghost character and the material character and using their different skills and mixing it up with skill tree decisions, that worked pretty well. But nothing spectacular. The fighting wasn't awesome, but it never got old. So throughout the whole gameplay, I didn't get really tired of it. There was enough variety in it. So I'm going to give that part, like playability, an 8. Given 2 more categories. Second to last is length, replay value, that sort of stuff. And like I said, there was a bit, just a bit too much of that bloaty, go collect that loot, open that cache, that sort of stuff. Maybe, just maybe, the game could have been shorter. But if you just played through the main quests, then I think this would have been a lot shorter, like half of what I did. So, yeah, that could be... I will be giving this an 8 from this part. Because the replay value is quite high, just because there are many different endings, and the choices you can do vary quite a bit. And those affect the game and the game world quite a lot. So I think there is a lot of replay value for people, especially for people who just want to play the main story. Although I'm pretty sure you have to do a lot of haunting quests or haunting cases, like side quests, if you wanted the ending that I got. The resurrection thingy. I didn't look it up anywhere, how many sacrifices you have to make to get to that ending. And I strongly recommend that if you play this sort of game, you don't either. Because Why take away the fun? So yeah, an 8 for length and replayability. And last but not least, I'm gonna call them Sleeky Points, but basically bonus points. Points that I will give for the game. This is tricky, because I'm gonna give the bonus points, I'm gonna give 9, which is a lot. Because I played several better games, but then again, I haven't finished this sort of games that often. So this game has a lot going on. And I'm gonna explain why I give so many bonus points. That's because there are no microtransactions. Nothing silly like that. No bugs, no glitches. The game works. Mind blown. Actually a big game with good production values, not the biggest production values, but a very nice looking and sounding game. And it actually works. It's super dumb that we have to be surprised about it, but I am. So, no dumb extra costs, no bugs, no glitches. The vibe is awesome. The choice system is awesome. So yeah, I'm not gonna give full 10 bonus points, because obviously I can say many things that could have been even a bit better. But still, especially the fact that a full-priced game, which this is so dumb, a full-priced game that, in fact, I got this on a disc because it was cheaper that way. A full-priced game that is ready pretty much from the get-go. Okay, I didn't start this on the release date, so obviously there could have been some things happening, and I think there was a sort of small patch done even during my gameplay, but I didn't notice any bugs or glitches, so I can't complain. So therefore 9, and that makes this pretty good total points, 85. Could have been higher, could have been lower, but 85 is quite solid. If I would compare, they're not comparable really. But games that would get better points would be games like bloody Cyberpunk, Witcher, newer God of War. So pretty big games. And if I'd review Dragon's Dogma 2, for example, it would get pretty good points, but not this good. So 85 it is. There you go.